Hello friends and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into a pivotal question in history, one that often sparks intense debate. Were Aurangzeb's policies the main reason for the decline of the colossal Mughal Empire? For centuries, the Mughals shaped the destiny of the subcontinent, leaving behind a legacy of art, architecture, and administration. But like all great empires, it too faced its twilight. The seeds of this decline are complex, often traced back to the reign of its last powerful emperor, Aurangzeb. The situation was already fraught with tension even before Aurangzeb's controversial policies came into full effect. When Emperor Shah Jahan fell ill in 1657, a brutal war of succession erupted among his sons. Dara Shikoh, Shah Shuja, Murad Bakhsh, and Aurangzeb himself. This wasn't just a family feud. It was a conflict that shook the empire's foundations, foreshadowing the instability that would later plague it. Aurangzeb ultimately emerged victorious, but the path to the throne was paved with bloodshed and intrigue, a pattern that would, unfortunately, repeat itself in the years to come, further weakening the imperial structure. In this video, we'll embark on a detailed exploration of the factors that led to the disintegration of this once mighty empire. We will meticulously break down the main reasons, examining Aurangzeb's reign, of course, but also looking beyond it to understand the broader socio-political and economic currents that contributed to its eventual collapse. We'll analyze the internal rebellions, the devastating foreign invasions, the critical role of weak successors, and the rise of a new colonial power. So, grab your notebooks, and let's get started on this fascinating journey through history. Aurangzeb Alamgir, the sixth Mughal emperor, ascended the throne after a bitter war of succession, and his reign, spanning nearly half a century from 1658 to 1707, is one of the most debated periods in history. Unlike his predecessors, particularly Akbar, who was known for his policy of Sulh-i-Kul, or universal peace and religious tolerance, Aurangzeb was a devout Sunni Muslim who sought to govern the empire strictly according to Islamic law, or Sharia. This marked a significant departure from the syncretic traditions that had characterized earlier Mughal rule and helped in integrating diverse communities within the empire's fold. His personal piety was undeniable, but its translation into state policy had far-reaching consequences. One of the first manifestations of his religious policy was the banning of practices he deemed un-Islamic. This included the discontinuation of the Solar New Year, or Nowruz celebrations, a tradition borrowed from Persia, the prohibition of music and dancing at the imperial court, and the banning of alcohol and other intoxicants. While some of these measures were aimed at moral reform according to his interpretation of Islam, they also alienated sections of the nobility and the general populace who were accustomed to these cultural practices. For instance, musicians and artists who had thrived under royal patronage found themselves unemployed, leading to discontent and a subtle shift in the cultural vibrancy of the Mughal court. Perhaps the most controversial of Aurangzeb's religious measures was the reimposition of the jizya tax on non-Muslims in 1679. This tax had been abolished by Akbar a century earlier in a bid to foster goodwill and equality among his subjects. Aurangzeb's rationale for reintroducing it was rooted in his interpretation of Islamic jurisprudence, which mandated such a tax on non-Muslim subjects in an Islamic state for their protection. However, in the context of 17th century India, where a majority of the population was non-Muslim, this was widely perceived as discriminatory and a symbol of religious intolerance, creating significant financial hardship for many. The reimposition of jizya caused widespread resentment, particularly among the Hindu population, which included traders, peasants, and even Rajput nobles who had been loyal allies of the Mughals for generations. It wasn't just the financial burden which was significant for the poor, but the symbolic implication of being treated as second-class citizens in their own land. This policy directly contradicted the inclusive approach that had helped emperors like Akbar consolidate and expand the empire. Instead of fostering unity, it sowed seeds of division and provided a rallying point for those opposed to Mughal rule, fueling discontent across various regions. Furthermore, Aurangzeb's reign is associated with the destruction of several Hindu temples. While the extent and motivation behind these actions are still debated by historians, some arguing it was politically motivated against rebellious chieftains, others seeing it as purely religious zeal, the impact was undeniably negative. Prominent temples, such as the Kashi Vishwanath temple in Varanasi and the